How did this book cure your depression, Mike?
This book really, really helped me. I was in a dark place 2 weeks ago. I was 15 pounds heavier than I wanted to be. I was addicted to Zins, the nicotine pouches, and just overall my thoughts were just in this terrible dark place. And thankfully, this book, The War of Art, helped me to see the light and climb out of this most recent battle with depression. It really did. It helped me in a big way.
How exactly did this book help you climb out of that hole and find the light?
It introduced me to this concept of resistance. And what resistance is basically the force inside that wants to keep you comfortable. And it comes from a very evil, dark magic place. I don't know if you believe in God and the devil or whatever it is that you believe in, but this force of resistance is in us all. And it's basically a dark energy inside that wants to keep you as comfortable as possible. It is the opposite of growth. It is comfort.
Yeah, I love how the author puts it. He says, resistance is a universal force that has one sole mission: to keep things as they are. So when he talks about a force, he also relates it to gravity. It's something that we have to fight against every day, and we need to, exert force to overcome that force that's put upon us.
And we all face it. It's that voice when you wake up in the morning, and if the night before you said you wanted to get up at a certain time and get to the gym, it's the voice that says, just sleep in for 5 more minutes, or it's okay, we can go to the gym tomorrow. All right, it's that little voice that wants to keep you comfortable. It's the simplest way to put it. And I was giving into resistance big time. And that's what I realized was the reason I got into this really dark pit of despair where I couldn't form a single positive thought about myself or my life was because this resistance had stacked so high and I had not fought through any of it, that it just kept building its own momentum until I was facing like this gigantic brick wall of resistance that I couldn't even see through it anymore.
Yeah, I love that analogy of resistance as this brick wall that's in front of you. So when you think about resistance and you think about this wall, there's you on one side, and on the other side of that wall is a meaningful life, your calling. And the thing that's in between you and that meaningful life is this wall of resistance. And every time we procrastinate or we give in to that instant gratification, we take a brick and we place it on top of that wall and we make it higher and higher and higher. And I think that's what you're saying is you place so many bricks that you could not even see any light on the other side at all. But the opposite is also true, right? When we chip away and we take an action that's positive, we take a brick off that wall and little by little, we can get on that other side.
And what happened with me was I made one really big decision where I read this book and I said to myself, wow, I have let resistance beat my ass. Like, I have not beat it. This daily battle that I'm presented with every day, I'm losing every single day.
Can you give me some specific examples of like how you lost these battles and what was it like in your actual day-to-day life?
I was eating junk foods that I know I did not want to be eating. I was binging on sugar. I was addicted to nicotine. So anytime I felt any discomfort inside, I would just pop in another nicotine pouch and it would make the discomfort go away for 15 minutes. And then I'd just pop in another one and just pop in. It did the easy thing. It's basically you just keep doing the easy things to stay comfortable, right? It's the opposite of delayed gratification. It's just instant gratification and keep yourself comfortable. But on the inside, right, the more that I'm keeping myself comfortable, the more that I'm eating the junk food, taking the nicotine pouches, sleeping in and not going to the gym, making these micro poor decisions day by day. Next thing you know, I'm in this terrible dark place of depression, and it was insidious. I didn't see it coming. At first, it was just like, yeah, I'm one nicotine pouch or one night, one little piece of junk food. But then it kept going and going and going and going and building this momentum until it was this. I was immersed in this giant dark cloud. And then it was like, how the hell do I get out of this?
It reminds me of this, one of my favorite passages from this book. The author has this title on the top, which is Resistance and Sex. And I want to read this section. Sometimes resistance takes the form of sex or an obsessive preoccupation with sex. Why sex? Because sex provides immediate and powerful gratification. When someone sleeps with us, we feel validated and approved of, even loved. Resistance gets a big kick out of that. It knows it has distracted us with a cheap, easy fix and kept us from doing our work. Of course, not all sex is a manifestation of resistance. In my experience, you can tell by the measure of hollowness you feel afterwards. The more empty you feel, the more certain you can be that your true motivation was not love or even lust, but resistance. It goes without saying that this principle applies to drugs, shopping, masturbation, TV, gossip, alcohol, and the consumption of all products containing fat, sugar, salt, or chocolate. The part that we highlighted in this section was the measure of hollowness you feel afterwards. The more empty you feel, the more certain you can be that your true motivation was not love or even lust, but resistance. So I think going back to your example of what you were saying that you were doing these things and then you still felt like shit inside, right? You had that moment of pleasure, but then it was going away. That instant gratification was not actually what you really wanted.
It was actually worse than that. It wasn't that I would get the dose of dopamine, and every time I did it, I would drop lower than I was before. And so it got to the point where I had the only source of dopamine was from these momentary things of pleasure. It reminds me of, I was listening to David Goggins, because whenever I'm in these places where I need to battle resistance, I just listen to him on the daily because he gets me all hype. So he's really successful now. He's got millions of dollars in the bank, and he's conquered all of this resistance to get there. And he speaks to these other rich people now that he's in their circle, and they say, Goggins, I feel empty inside. I feel like I'm missing something. I have all of this shit, but I feel empty inside. Why is it that I feel so unfulfilled? And he goes, motherfucker, you feel unfulfilled because you're so goddamn comfortable. You have no problems, and you think that this comfort is going to is going to make you feel fulfilled. But I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have it all. I hate running, but I do it every single morning, specifically because I hate it. Basically, he's trying to make the point that the way you feel truly fulfilled is by pushing yourself through discomfort every single day. That is the only way you'll get that feeling of fulfillment, true fulfillment.
So can you give me examples of how you've overcome this resistance and how you've started to lean into that feeling of uncomfort?
So every time I get depressed, I reach the same point, and it's called the I can't take this anymore point. And after I read this book, I got there. I was sitting down at my table. I was by myself in my apartment, and I just started journaling. I said, I can't take this anymore. I'm done with living this way, giving into resistance. I need to do something big. It can't be this small baby step. Fuck that. I need to do something big. So I just wrote in big letters on this piece of paper, I need to quit nicotine. As soon as I finished writing that, I crumpled up the piece of paper, threw it out, took my stupid ass container of Zins that were sitting right in front of me. I actually left my apartment, threw it in a garbage outside because I was so addicted to that shit in the past that I knew that if I threw it in my own garbage, I'd actually be so desperate and weak that I would climb into my own garbage after throwing it out to open it back up. And I'm sure there are people listening who are addicted, have done the same shit before.
And it doesn't have to be with nicotine. It could be with food and snacks. I don't keep junk food in my house because I know that if it's in my house, I'm going to eat it. And that temptation is there.
Have you ever thrown it out and then dug it out of the garbage?
No, I haven't.
That's another level of
addiction.
You feel horrible about yourself. You're just wow, I am sad as you're pulling it out and you can't even help yourself.
Yeah, it's
sad.
Actually, you ever see sometimes you see drug addicts that are looking on the floor and they'll pick up a cigarette bud that still has a little left in it and smoke it off the floor.
Addiction's bad. Okay. So anyway, I just like in this moment of like trying to break through this big brick wall of resistance, I said, I'm quitting nicotine. I throw it out. And as soon as I did that, I felt 100 times better about myself. And then about 5 minutes later, I started panicking. So I'm like, oh God, I just made this decision. I did it. Like now I have to not have this nicotine. And so for the next like 3-4 days, I went through horrible withdrawal, and the resistance was there day after day telling me like, yeah, you can't do this, bro. Like, look how much pain you're in. You can't even think straight. You're being angry at everything and everyone. Like, how are you going to get any work done in this state?
So the resistance was this little voice that was giving you excuses to go back to it.
Yep. And I just kept fighting it. Like, no, fuck you, resistance. Fuck you, resistance. But that big decision gave me like a little confidence boost to be able to face it again and again and again over the next couple days. And then I made another big decision. I said, you know what? I'm signing back up for 5:30 a.m. CrossFit every single day. And I'm really going to take this shit to the next level. Like, I'm going to show resistance who the boss is here. Like, this is my next step to say, like, to build my strength. And it's almost like I'm playing a video game, and it's like I'm buying all of like these packs to make myself stronger against the boss, right? So I sign up for CrossFit, and now we're 2 weeks into me having that moment of despair, realizing how depressed I really was. It's 2 weeks later of me going to CrossFit at 5:30 a.m. consistently, still not touching nicotine, on the other side of the withdrawals, and I'm no longer depressed and feel 100 times better about myself. But, there's a big but, the thing about resistance and the battle against it is that it never ends. Like Goggins said, even when you have all the money in the world, you're living this amazing lifestyle, you've achieved all your dreams, you need to continuously push yourself to do hard things, or else there's something inside that will just make you feel like you're leaving potential on the table. And that feeling of leaving potential on the table eats at you. It eats at you. So yes, I overcame my resistance. Yes, I climbed out of it. But unless I continuously fight the fight every day moving forward, I know that I will slip back into it. So it's just keep fighting every day. That's where I'm at now.
That's awesome, man. I'm really proud of you for taking that step. As you were talking, it reminded me of that really simple and effective quote that I try to keep in mind all the time, which is easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. And that's really what this is about, and why that 5:30 a.m. CrossFit is helping so much, right? Because it's forcing you to do something super hard, to make that hard choice in the morning. And what it does is it makes the rest of your day easy, right? Because in your mind, you already won a huge battle against resistance, and everything else after that becomes so much easier to handle. So it seems like that is a real driver to your continued success right now, is being able to set your day up by beating resistance right from the get-go.
Why this book was so life-changing is because it gives you a label for that feeling that we all feel. Like, by labeling it resistance, it makes it so much easier to recognize when it's happening. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, yeah.
Like, have you found that?
For sure. And you know what? Just to give some context, the author has some real experience battling resistance, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but I did some research, and it took him 17 years before earning a penny from writing. It took him 27 years to publish his first novel, and he didn't make a living from writing until he was 50 years old. So talk about a guy who has experience with battling resistance and losing to it. This is a guy that knows that feeling very well, and why I think he's able to communicate it so well.
Do you still face resistance?
Of course, we all do. That's one thing that I picked up from this book, was that resistance never dies. It is a force just like gravity that always exists. And the only thing we can do, the best strategy, is to chip away, is to gain momentum, because momentum weakens resistance. It doesn't eliminate it.
I love that. Momentum weakens resistance.
Momentum weakens resistance. It does not eliminate it. Resistance will always be there. It will always be there. But that's why one of my core philosophies in life is one thing at a time, right? It's chipping away. And that's something that we use all the time in our CrossFit workout, right? It's like, okay, you have this hard ass workout, but you can't focus on doing the whole workout. You just got to chip away, one squat at a time, one power clean at a time. And little by little, by little by little, that resistance goes away. You finish that workout and you feel fucking amazing. And that amazing feeling stays with you. So, of course, I feel resistance. I mean, even we can go even deeper into us with this podcast, right? We felt resistance for 7 years before we actually successfully put out our first podcast to the world, right? We had many attempts, but they were not really, they were losses to resistance.
The one interesting thing about resistance is procrastination is one of resistance's many forms, right? So rather than say, I'm not doing it, to kind of push resistance to the side, you just say, I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow you say it again, and then again, and then again. So procrastination is a way for you to feel comfortable about not doing the hard thing, because in a way you're telling yourself you're going to do it. Like you're rationalizing, I'm going to do it, just I'll do it on Monday, or I'll do it sometime in the future.
They say procrastination is like swiping a credit card. It feels really good in the moment and you get that thing that you really want, but eventually that bill comes due and then you're screwed, right?
Exactly what happened with me with the Zins. I got to the point where I was taking the nicotine every day and it was making me feel great and great and great until it got to the point where my body got so used to the nicotine where it was like, this actually makes me feel like shit. And then I had to pay the dues. I had to go through this horrible withdrawal. I had to pay the bill. And then it was like,
talk about the concept from the book that about like leaning in to how did you phrase it in your notes here about like it was like entering the harder the thing is, the more you need to do it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so procrastination, right? It's one of the many forms of resistance, but this book teaches you that procrastination can actually be used to your advantage because it can point in the exact direction that you need to go. So you can feel lost in life. You can feel like, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't know what direction I should be heading in. And the author, Steven Pressfield, is saying, whatever it is that you really don't want to do, or whatever it is that feels hard, whatever it is that you continuously avoid doing, just do that. Like, it's literally that simple. If you don't know what to do, just do the thing that you really don't want to do, because chances are that's the thing that you are supposed to do. Like, the reason why you don't want to do it, whatever you feel the most resistance towards, is the exact direction that you need to go. Because like we said, fulfillment is on the other side of battling through that resistance. So the more resistance you battle through, the more fulfilled you feel, and now you're on track to your calling. So use the procrastination, recognize it when it comes, and then do the thing. Just do it. Because on the other side of it is this feeling of like the warrior who conquered, whatever they're trying to conquer. It's this feeling of triumph, of victory.
Are you ready? I got a good one for you, a good quote, the one that really brings this to life. So Joseph Campbell is one of our favorite philosophers. He's a mythologist and a philosopher, and he's the guy that developed the hero's journey. And one of his famous quotes is, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." And this concept of resistance is so beautifully displayed in that quote. And when you think about this quote and applying it to every story that this guy, Joseph Campbell, studied, and every movie that's now created, and the transformation that every character goes through, we all go through this journey where we need to take that leap into the thing that we fear, because when we do, is when we can actually really become the person we are meant to be.
I think that's a good place to wrap this episode up. And I think it's a good time to give a call to action for the people who are listening or watching to actually take something away from this episode and not just hear us talk about this shit. And do you mind if I share a call to action?
I mean, you've definitely experienced the most growth from this concept in recent times. So what do you got? Well, how can people experience a similar amount of growth?
There is zero doubt in my mind that you, whoever's watching or listening, are experiencing resistance in some shape or form. Whether that's in the area of your health, you know that you should be eating healthier and you can't stop eating junk food and sugar. You're addicted to something like alcohol or weed or whatever it is for you. If it's wealth, you are going to this job that you know is just not meant for you, and it's just like every day is the same. Or it's your relationships. It's like you're in this relationship that you know you really shouldn't be in. There's some level of resistance that you're facing in one of those three areas, either your health, your wealth, or your relationships. Identify the biggest thing in your life that is the biggest amount of resistance. So for me, I was addicted to Zins, and it was the thing that I absolutely hated the most about myself. I could not take that I was addicted to this thing, and I hated it. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, it was the thing that was causing me to not feel proud of myself. More than anything else, it was the one thing that I really needed to change. So identify what that is for you. Identify what is the one thing, the one global thing that's affecting every area of your life and stopping you from feeling truly proud of yourself, and take the direction towards it. So if it's you're addicted to something, make the decision, move towards that thing. Just stop. If you do that one thing, if you commit to doing that one thing, you'll start to build that momentum to keep building your strength against this force of resistance, and it'll start rippling into the other areas. So like for me, I quit the nicotine. The next thing you know, I'm now going to the gym at 5:30. I'm eating a lot healthier. It starts to ripple. But if you do that one big thing, it will help you to give you the strength and the courage and the pride in yourself to keep the momentum building. So identify what is that one big thing that's keeping you from being proud of yourself, and just take action towards that resistance, whatever it is for you.
Yeah. Enter that cave and you'll find your treasure.
Exactly.
All right, bro. Great job.
All right. So if you liked this episode of Brolosophy, before you go, you might want to check out this one right now. It's about perfectionism, the other side of this coin, and how to truly love yourself. So check that one out. Love you. And we'll see you next time. Peace.